And welcome. We're doing something a little different here. This is a immediate live reaction to the AFC Championship game and the Kansas City Chiefs. And you guys know I like to do it here. I'm very big into the story of sports. This is the story of the 2024 Kansas City Chiefs. The story of the 2024 Kansas City Chiefs is that of doubted, is that of mocked, is that of ridiculed, and I am no different. I have multiple times this season said they couldn't do it. They weren't good enough in certain areas. Mahomes was getting hit too much. They don't have the skill players. The defense we knew was great, but I still thought susceptible. And there were seasons like Lamar Jackson, who's probably going to win his third MVP. Josh Allen, who overcame what most of us thought was going to be a down year for Buffalo and took them still to a top 2 seed in the AFC. And even the ever in the background, despite the record, Joe Burrow and his borderline historic 24 season. Mahomes, who had career lows across the numbers, which was in reality always more a reflection of his own standard that he set, which maybe was unreachable and untouchable, more so than a sign of declining or coming back to the pack. The Kansas City Chiefs, and trust me, this is taking a lot from me right now as a fan of a team in the AFC West. Their story is that of couldn't do it, shouldn't be here, and maybe the most disrespected team ever. This team is the 2-time defending Super Bowl champion. Their quarterback has won 3 Super Bowls, been to 4. They have a coach who has been to as many conference championships as anyone not named Bill Belichick on planet Earth. Potentially the greatest tight end ever, an all-pro Hall of Fame NFL defensive tackle. This is what it looks like. We all get sick of dynasties as other fans, and I've said on multiple times, fans don't have to quote-unquote kiss the ring. That's not our obligation. But the way this team has been discussed, from a media perspective, I won't say it was wrong in the moment, but we now all have to. Anyone who is saying they're going to lose their playoff game, they can't beat Buffalo, they can't beat Baltimore, they can't do this, they can't do that, we all have to sit there and now raise our hand and go, I was wrong. That's what this year was for the Kansas City Chiefs. This was the year their story was proving everybody wrong, despite how heavily doubted, despite how heavily criticized, despite being told you can't do it. And they have always, because of their resume, had more qualifications than anyone. We gave Lamar a pass without a Super Bowl. We gave Josh Allen a pass in terms of believing they could do it this year without a Super Bowl. Joe Burrow, because he's been to one and he's beaten Mahomes once. And we kept saying the 2-time defending champ, the team with the greatest quarterback we've probably ever seen, they can't do it. So this is the year, Kansas City fans. This is you. You deserve, even if you don't win the next game, the fact that you got to this place. 5 Super Bowls in 6 years. Only back-to-back champ to ever make it back to the Super Bowl. The potential to three-peat. I'm here to say I'm wrong. And if you have any kind of self-respecting voice in the media, you should also be willing to raise your hand and say, I was wrong. Greatness is hard for a lot of us to understand because truly unique greatness, I'm talking about all these guys are 1%ers just to make it to the NFL, just to make it to professional sports. But the guys who are truly in that 0.001, I'm talking about the all-time greats, take any sport. I'm talking about the LeBrons, the Michaels, the Kobes, the Magics, the Birds. I'm talking if you go to baseball, the Mike Trouts, the Ken Griffey Jr.'s, the Hank Aaron's, the Willie Mays. And when you're in football and you're a quarterback, I'm talking about the now Mahomes, the Bradys, the Mannings, the Rodgers, those guys that are truly in that space. They all do stuff that we borderline thought was impossible before. When it came to, let's just stay in the NFL, when it came to quarterbacks, those 4 guys I named. When it came to Manning, the way at the line of scrimmage, he revolutionized. He was a quarterback calling out plays, calling out adjustments. And while that had happened in the past, we'd never seen it at that level Or he's almost, you can see him as a fan on TV, breaking down the defense, calling out guys, changing everything, doing all these audibles. Rodgers, the back shoulder throw, which was always technically there, but similar to Steph Curry in the NBA at the three-point shot, he made it consistent. The amount of times he made the indefensible pass with the back shoulder throw. Tom Brady, the consummate winner. What he did in New England is unparalleled, and we're going to get to him later in the show. And now Mahomes, who he just does whatever he needs to do. When he first came in the league, he was scoring 30, 40 points a game because his defense wasn't very good. The 50-touchdown season, Kansas City didn't have a great defense. He did what he needed to do. We always talk about, and great coaches and coaches historically have always said, you lose more games than you win. Mahomes is the greatest we've probably ever seen, him and Brady, to just not lose the game. Does he need 30 points? Okay, he'll get there. Can he rely on the ground game and make sure bleed the clock out? And more than anything, Mahomes just makes that play. We've all seen it. We've all seen him scramble for 5 yards on 3rd and 4. Just barely complete the 7-yard pass to Kelsey on a 3rd and 6. He just always gets that play, which is the backbreaker. And those plays aren't just, oh, he got the yards he needed. The style in which he did it drags on for a defense who goes, it's almost that play, the momentum's there, and he always snatches the momentum. Chiefs, you'll never truly have, I've said this multiple times, I'm a Chief hater because of the team that I root for. But I can also be fair. You can have my hate, and you can also have some of my respect. As a fan, you get my hate. As an analyst and someone who does this for a potential living, you have my respect. A potential three-peat, 5 Super Bowls in 6 years. What can you say? Now, I do also want to say this, and I don't even want to entertain the ref part of this conversation because I think it's a very low-hanging fruit. Yes, can it apply to certain games? Sure. But the story of the Kansas City Chiefs isn't reffing. And also, we do have to, and shout out to Tony, he said this on group chat, we have to stop acting like this team. Yes, we want other teams to win. We want our own team to win. We'd love our own team to be in the position the Kansas City Chiefs are in. But we have to stop acting like this team is as unlikable as the Patriots were. Because of Spygate and Deflategate and however you feel about those 20 years later, there were actual things that were put into us that, oh, the Patriots cheated. And so that helped add to the unlikableness, as well as Bill Belichick was this stoic, didn't talk, was rude to the media, dismissive of the media. Tom was very robotic early on in his career. They gave us actual personality traits to dislike. And maybe you don't like the whole Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift thing, but this Chiefs team is not unlikable at its core. They're only unlikable because they keep winning. And that's their reality. Now let's go to the story of Josh Allen, which is unfortunately welcome to being potentially Phillip Rivers. When Brady was winning and at such a high clip, someone has to lose. Phillip Rivers, who's probably going to be in the Hall of Fame, has almost every franchise record for the Chargers, a franchise that had a Hall of Fame quarterback before him in Dan Fouts, but could never beat Brady. Josh Allen just went to 0-4 against Patrick Mahomes. I talked about the Bills before this game as the team that was so close but couldn't quite make it. We know Jim Kelly losing 4 straight Super Bowls. Again, a franchise with a Hall of Fame quarterback prior to him. And Josh is going to have the stats. Josh is going to have the recognition as an elite talent. Josh is always going to be known as one of the best quarterbacks in the National Football League. And Josh, like Phillip, isn't going to have the rings like Brady. Isn't going to have the appearances, which skewed maybe, but Burrow's got an appearance. Ben got an appearance and won. He's not going to have the MVPs like Rodgers. He's going to be the one guy in this era as things currently stand. Lamar has the MVPs. Burrow has the appearance and the win against Mahomes in the playoffs. What does Josh have? He's got stats. Rivers had stats. Rivers was acknowledged as one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. But he didn't have the hardware. He doesn't have the achievements. Doesn't have the accomplishments. They both unironically wear number 17. Where does this leave Josh Allen in the grand scheme of things in his story in the NFL? We only got a few. If we have our Brady, and we clearly do, and Burrow's made that little Big Ben niche where he's gotten to a Super Bowl, he's beaten Mahomes in the playoffs, where does that leave Josh? Josh is great. All-time talent. But his story, no matter how great you are as an individual, as a talent, your story will eventually be read off as in a book and go, what do we know about Josh Allen? Well, he was never an MVP, never won a Super Bowl, and he was 0-4 against Mahomes. He lost to Burrow. He finally beat Lamar, but Lamar's got way more MVPs and way more accolades. And you still have plenty of time to write your story. All these guys, what's great about them is they're all under 30. But as things stand right now, the same way we could crown Mahomes as a top 2 quarterback ever already, Allen has fit himself into that Phillip Rivers-esque, a lot of stats, a lot of monies, a lot of acknowledgement with your peers. And remember, Rivers was loved. Rivers was a trash-talking. He had a personality. Rivers did a bunch of things that people really, really liked. But he was never Big Ben. He was never Brady. And even, you could argue, was overshadowed by Eli Manning, who Rivers, by all accounts, had a better career, but Eli had 2 great playoff runs, which resulted in 2 Super Bowls.